Now, the story is, of course, that TikTok is being effectively banned. And we saw early on, Republicans wanted it banned. They viewed it as biased, but Democrats disagreed. At some point in 2023, Democrats all got on board. And then in early 2024, a bipartisan bill was passed, signed by Joe Biden, forcing TikTok to divest from China. The Supreme Court has ruled 9-0 that this law will be upheld, and comes this Sunday, so in 2 days from this recording, TikTok will either have to be removed from U.S. servers or they will have to divest from China.
Let's get into this. This is Timcast IRL, and they are going to talk about the TikTok situation with the homie Myron Gaines. I'm a fan. I'm just going to put it out there. I've talked about him a couple times on the channel. Myron has courage, and he has no fear about anybody. Myron Gaines and Tim Pool, he's been on the show before, Fresh and Fit, both, but it's a different vibe now. We're in a different world post October 7th. Let's get into it. Phil from All the Remains, Tim Cast from Timcast IRL, Myron Gaines from Fresh and Fit, talking about the TikTok ban. I'm going to dispel, wait for it, I'm going to dispel the misinformation that's going on. I'm very knowledgeable about the bill and listen to the oral arguments and everything, so we'll get into that.
Now, Myron says the principal reason for this, the reason why this got banned, is not because of Chinese threats, but or the threat of China and a threat to our data and security, but because of Israeli interests. So I'm curious if you want to elaborate on that and why you think that is.
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about banning TikTok for espionage for years, but it wasn't until the ADL and everyone else started making a stink about, the overwhelming overrepresentation of pro-Palestine posts on TikTok that they actually started making things happen. And now we're kind of seeing the entail of that, where they're getting rid of it, and there's been an enormous amount of lobbying from these organizations that are pro-Zionist to get rid of TikTok. I mean, hell, a bunch of them tried to buy it. They weren't successful. Ian Carroll made a fantastic video about this. So, yeah, I mean, the truth is that the main reason why TikTok is getting removed from the United States is for Israeli security.
So I'm going to pull
up. So that's fair. We don't know for sure, but what we have to talk about here is theories, of course, and people try to call them conspiracy as a label to label them bad. But when you play chess and you think about the moves somebody made and why they made the moves or why they didn't make the move or what move they're going to make, nobody says, you're a conspiracy theorist. No, we're playing chess. I need to know what's going on. I'm playing football. I have to guess. Are you in man or zone defense? And that's what we're doing here. I'm going to continue on and let you know why this is a complicated situation. Yes, the funny country was part of the reason involved here, but there's more than that. Let's get back to the clip. Tim Cass about to respond to Myron Gaines on the funny country, the tiny hat country, the dreidel country, Ben Shapiro country. I'm going to have to think of new names for this country.
This story,
there were eyes.
I'm going to pull up this story from Axios, and I'll say this. I wouldn't frame it the same way as you do, but
we can have a difference of opinion.
Yeah, but I do believe you are largely correct that it was lobbying from pro-Israel groups that resulted in Democrats changing their tune on the banning of TikTok. This story from Axios we covered at the time and straight up said that it was posts in favor of Palestine that resulted in Democrats finally getting on board with Republicans to get TikTok effectively banned.
Respect for Tim. He's being honest there. I've criticized him, and he's right, and he's not afraid to say it there.
In this story, it says, on TikTok, views of pro-Palestine posts far surpass views of pro-Israel posts. And it shows this chart. What's interesting here is that there were a bunch of experts in media and social media. I would say this. Call me whatever you want. As someone who for, 20 years has been working on social media in some form or another, I've been on the internet my whole life.
He's an expert, absolute expert, Tim Pool.
And based on the research I've done in marketing and social media, we've built up this podcast, one of the top podcasts in the world. I agree with other researchers when it appears that TikTok intentionally altered its algorithm to promote pro-Palestine views.
And what's your point? Tim, you don't even argue for free speech for the people on the platform. You say, Tim, well, he doesn't flat out say it, but this is his position. Freedom of speech, but not reach. He has no problem with that. If you support X saying you can pay for a speech boost, then you support freedom of speech but not reach. Because if I go on the X platform and I don't pay for a blue check, then I don't get as much speech as the other person. Go look it up if you're not aware of this. If you buy a yellow check, which is like $2,000 a month or something like that, you get together with people or you got a business, you get even more boost of your speech. That is freedom of speech, but not reach. Fine. If you agree with that, fine. So that means TikTok can adjust their algorithm to whatever the hell they want. Let's get back to it.
And so I can show you this chart and explain why. So this is just after October 7th. On October 16th to the 23rd, 2023, Stand With Palestine had 11 million views and Stand With Israel had 12 million. However, there were 123,000 posts Stand With Palestine, and there were only 8,000 posts for Stand With Israel. This means that very few people were engaging with Stand With Palestine content. It was being posted. People were not watching the content.
Agreed.
From in the next week, which is a rapid shift, with only 87,000 posts, so a decrease of around 40,000 posts, Stand With Palestine was now getting 285 million views.
So if you're just listening, what Tim has data here. If it's accurate, let's just believe it. I don't see any reason why not to. That from October 16th to the 23rd, there were a ton of posts that said stand with the other country that was getting destroyed. But there wasn't a lot of views. And there wasn't a lot of views with the funny country either. The next week, it looked like somebody turned the dial. There were less posts, but way more views for the country that was getting destroyed, that is destroyed right now. That's not even a country, the territory that's getting destroyed right now. So Tim's saying that's evidence to me that TikTok turned the dial. And my answer is, and?
Stand With Israel saw an increase to 64 million views with 9,000 posts. But this is indicative of an intentional change in the algorithm. Now, there's one or two ways to look at it. TikTok's algorithm updates itself once a week, perhaps. I don't know. And based on...
I think the algorithm updates per second. That's why it's funny. Elon Musk said, I released the algorithm. It's a static version of the algorithm at one time. And I'm like, Elon, the algorithm changes every second, basically. And not only was it a static version of the algorithm, so the algorithm, the second after he released it, could be completely different, and we would never know. You need a live, by-the-second view of the algorithm. The other part of it is there are backdoors literally in the code. I analyzed the algorithm that Elon Musk released, and there's several times where it says backdoor, basically, and we don't have the backdoor code. Let's get back to the clip, man. The algorithm's crazy.
The amount of posts that came through, TikTok's algorithm automatically adjusted to then show more of this because so much content was being produced. I don't believe that likely. Seems more likely that there was an intentional shift in the algorithm to promote the views some 26 times more than they had already been seen before that. So it does look like there was an intentional promotion of this content.
What's your point, bro?
When this happened, lobbying came to D.C. Democrats changed their tunes overnight. This seems to be the reason.
So here's what Tim's saying is TikTok, let's just assume TikTok turned the dial, figuratively speaking, to favor the country that everybody had sympathy for because the big bad America and dreidel land were just unliving innocent women and children. Yeah, it's hard to believe somebody would have empathy for that. But so what he's saying is then the funny country came to America and turned the algorithm dial on our politicians by giving them shekels. Neither one is better. I don't like either one. What it shows is, I'm going to leave that for my end take. Let's continue back on. Tim Cast with Myron Gaines. This is a great clip.
I'm curious, as someone who is much more pro-Israel, what you think of that.
I disagree that Israel is the main factor at play when it comes to the banning of TikTok. I think it's oversimplistic, lacks nuance, and it makes you actually miss a bigger and more interesting story.
What's that, bro?
The interests that are at play here. So, for example, Trump used to be against, or was for the TikTok banning initially because he was listening to many China hawks, and he had a bad relationship with a very rich billionaire named Jeffrey Yass, who has a very large investment in ByteDance, and he is of the Club for Growth, a group that's been lobbying on TikTok's behalf to keep them together. Trump fixed his relationship with Jeffrey Yass, and he became a large Trump donor, and that's large in part why Trump has flipped on the TikTok issue. I think it also misses the bigger picture of other social media companies stand to benefit so much from TikTok's banning. For example, Meta, obviously,
Instagram,
Google, Twitter, obviously, benefits a ton from this. And then also TikTok played their hand very poorly. I don't know if you remember initially when the bill came out before October October 7th, when all the China hawks were talking about banning TikTok. When you opened up the TikTok app, they actually had your congressman's phone number, and then congresspeople got spammed with phone calls from young teenagers who never voted, complaining about the looming TikTok ban. And I'll tell you one thing: congresspeople do not like being pushed around like that. But here's what I'll say. That's not as salacious, that's not as spicy, that's not as sexy as saying, damn, the Jews did it. You know what I mean? And that's really one of the issues, I think, with spewing this stuff, is that you miss the bigger, more interesting political story, and it's kind of it makes you dumber, I think.
But a lot.
Spoon food you.
I think TikTok should be forced to divest from China for all of the data reasons. So when someone comes to me and says, Tim, it's the Jews, they did it, I'll be like, wow, they're great. I'm really happy that they helped us out here because base.
Not only should you be thankful that the Jews got TikTok banned, they also helped get rid of Jamal Bowman, the Jews, and they also
you see what happened here? It went quickly from it wasn't the Jays to let's be thankful for the Jays. What are we talking about here?
Get rid of Cori Bush. I don't think the Jews get enough credit for all the good, the obvious.
Well, maybe they really are our best ally.
See, they're trying to be funny, but this isn't funny to me. So there is a lot going on here, but here's what I would do if I was on the panel. Okay, there's some that I agree with here, but I want to make sure that I lock you in on we agree on this thing. The J lobby didn't like TikTok because of what Tim just said. Can we just flat out say that? Great. And then you go into that, the J lobby is the most powerful lobby in America. Can we just say that? Great. So the J lobby is the real reason why this flipped, because before October 7th, this had no traction. Myron said that. I wish Myron was a little bit more aggressive on the show. He's I think what he wanted to do was not burn the bridges, kind of like Elijah Schaefer was very careful when he was on. So can we see that the timeline makes sense? So yeah, the leader of this is the J lobby. And then the tech bros in America, who are also in line with the J lobby. See, that's what Elad or whatever this neocon's name is. Tim, what happened to Ian? I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on with Ian is the one that can counter. A lot of people don't like Ian on Timcast, and I think you're absolutely wrong. Ian is based a lot. He's unorthodox. He makes the show more interesting, and he's one of the few people who challenges Tim. So you say it's the tech bros. All of the tech bros censor American platforms on behalf of the government agencies and the dreidel country. So it all comes back to the dreidel country again, right? I mean, it all comes back to it. Your strongest point was the tech bros want TikTok banned. Of course. Dreidel company wants TikTok banned. Of course. Dreidel company controls basically the former people from there, various groups from that country work still with TikTok, and they work with the government agencies, and they ban, obviously, any speech that's in America that's against them. So it all comes back to that again.
I don't know. Maybe
I'll say this.
Myron,
let me give my take. No, you're good. You're good. I respectfully disagree. I do think that there is growing.
You like Jamal Bowman?
Yeah, I don't even know who that is.
Oh, see. Here's what they're talking about with Jamal Bowman. I'm not going to go too much on that. The J lobby destroyed. Well, actually, I am. I'm going to pause this video. I'm going to sidetrack. F it. I'm sidetracking. Hold on. I'm going to pause this video. Do not go anywhere. You're not going to see the pause. I'm pausing my recording, then I'll be right. This is going to be an extended one. We're going to have to break this down. So what they were trying to chuckle up about, they reminded me of Bill Burr. As whack as Bill Burr was on the LA fires, where he was trying to joke about the people online asking questions about why it was so mismanaged, that's how goofball they sound like on that country. And they're talking about Jamal Bowman. The lobby group for that country, the PAC, that group, they're like APAC. That group lobbied to get Jamal Bowman out of office. And they're saying, well, aren't you happy about that? Go find the nearest J. Go find the nearest pro-funny country J and thank them for that. No, F you. No, I don't like Jamal Bowman, but that's not the point. So what they're saying is thank them for getting a person you don't like out of office. No, I'm not going to do that. If I'm in a marriage with the country, or the country's like a marriage. If I'm in a marriage and I make a determination in my household and my wife says something else, and then somebody else comes in and puts money into it, and even if it goes on my side, I'm going to say, get the hell out of my household. This is between us, not you. So here's what they did. I mapped it out. This is off topic. This is not off topic totally from the, I'm just showing you the power of the lobby group here. How does this government connect to to Jamal Bowman? The funny country is connected to a group called JCC. That is a group in America. The JCC is connected to APAC. And then the APAC is connected to another group, which is actually the money of the group. The government connects directly to these groups, and these groups, so what they're saying is the APAC group is not a group that is connected to the country over there. That's an American thing. Nope. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I have literally have it spelled out here, how they connect to the JCC, how the JCC connects to the PAC group, and how the PAC group connects to the UDP. It's all, or it's the United Democracy Project. I have it all here with all the money mapped in, out there, all in the open. Let's get back to I'm going to pause this, get back to the TikTok discussion.
But
fire
what I'll
alarm
say-
guy.
What,
Well,
fire
you
alarm
could
guy?
blame
Okay.
everything on the Jews. You don't even need to think about these important elections.
Yeah, no, I mean, my thing is, I don't think that it's manipulated, as you would say. I do think that in general, there's a general disdain for Israel. Whether you want to look at TikTok saying, oh, yeah, pro-Palestine posts. Well, if you look on X is overwhelmingly anti-Israel.
So I disagree with Myron here. And what he's saying is, Myron is saying, I don't agree with Tim saying that TikTok necessarily turned the dial. He thinks it's authentic because it was very soon after October 7th, so it could have been authentic. I say it doesn't matter. I agree with Tim on that. It doesn't matter either way, Myron. The fact is TikTok has the ability to turn the dial. I don't know if they did or not, but they do have the ability to press a button on a keyboard and say, we're boosting more of this content. So it doesn't matter if we know or not.
If you look at YouTube comment section where there's two people.
That's not true.
Yeah, I don't know.
X is not overwhelmingly anti-Israel.
If it were,
Bro, I gotta tell you,
Every big
if you-
pro-Israel commentator gets ratioed whenever they show.
I got to pause you there, bro. You're in a
Big
bubble.
time.
You're in a bubble.
That's
Okay.
because of the people.
No, I don't agree with Tim there. What do you mean you're in a bubble? If you post something, and Tim's getting ratioed all the time too, that's not a bubble. It's out there for everybody. So that means the people that follow you aren't really supporting it as much as the other people who are commenting against it. And so I don't know why Tim is saying X is not anti the funny country. There's a lot of that on there. It's true. And the dial on X is turned against that because there's certain words you can't say.
Tim's got a point.
if that is true, then why isn't
I'll
Twitter
give you an
banned? Because
example.
the Jews are almighty and powerful.
But-
if it's as unpopular and anti-Semitic as you're saying Twitter is, then why isn't Twitter
I
getting
didn't
banned?
say that. I just said that in general on social media.
Wait, what do you mean? Why isn't Twitter getting banned? Because there's that's an off-topic type of thing here. Because Twitter also is, to me, a honeypot to when you sign up for it, especially if you're monetized, you give them your information. They're collecting data on you. So Elon Musk would not have the power he would have right now on X if he didn't allow people on the right, or what you could call the further right, to turn the platform from where it was before. He wouldn't have been able to help Trump win. We can do a whole nother 20 minutes on that topic.
Platforms, Israel is just not like.
So-
Whether you look YouTube videos where there's someone debating Zionism versus.
Okay, I don't want to go too long. This is such a great, we could break it up into two. I'm not going to right now, but I'm just gonna wrap this up and end it with this. What we're seeing is America is an empty vessel. And that's based on the ignorance of the populace. 80 to 90% of the people in America, and I'm not even saying this as a derogatory thing, it's just basically the facts of the situation. Most people don't care or know what the hell is going on. Like for the TikTok bill, people don't even understand the bill that was passed gives the president the power, the active president the power to do whatever they want on this bill. So for example, they have to use the countries that are determined as adversary, but the president can decide one moment. So Joe Biden has decided from April, this is what the bill says. Joe Biden decided in April that TikTok is controlled by adversary foreign government and they have to divest. January 19th was the day, so that's why they shut down on midnight of the 18th to going into the 19th. But the bill says the president decides that. So now Donald Trump is the president on the 20th. So he can undo Joe Biden's stuff. All he has to do is say, I don't agree anymore, and it's done. Congress gave the president 100% power on that. And if Donald Trump says it's done, there is no judicial, there's no suing, there's nothing you can do about it. The judicial problem, if Trump said it is foreign control, TikTok would have another judicial avenue separate from the Supreme Court, because the Supreme Court was just arguing about the bill, not if they really are foreign or not. So that's what it is. It gave Trump full power. That's why TikTok's back, because Trump said, right now, we'll work something out. Trump didn't even have to say we'll work something out. Trump could have said we're good. But why would you give up the leverage? So there's a lot that we can unpack with this, but the end is America is an empty vessel. You have China, you have the funny country, you have, they call it Qatar now. I grew up with Qatar. You have Saudi Arabia. You have we kind of use the Crane country. All of these countries are using you and my tax dollars, and we are getting manipulated. That's all that's happening here, and we need to wake up real quick. That's my biggest takeaway from all this.
The next clip is ready below. Welcome to After Show Carnage.